Hi, welcome back to another segment of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters.
And we'll just maybe wrap up quickly because there's a few other things here.
Right. So we were just speaking a little bit about this dovetailing of this economic development subcommittee meeting.
Invited all the players from Harvard Square.
Yeah, together with this call for landmarking of the so-called Abbott building where the Curious George is located.
Right.
Actually, it's interesting. David Marr pointed out that for those who think that the Curious George business has been in that building since the beginning of time,
they were part of where Wordsworth was.
And actually, David Marr said that he was actually sort of helped facilitate them getting into that space. He's still sitting on the council, so it's not like you're losing Bob Slate when Bob Slate was going and then got thankfully picked up by somebody else or one of the other.
Well, they retired the Bob Slate, the owners, and then
But hopefully that will, because I remember at the meeting last week, I got up to the mic and spoke about, I think, things do change, businesses move. I think I may have referenced looking at photos of Central Square over the many years and seeing familiar names of businesses, but something seemed wrong, and I realized that they had actually moved.
Right.
So there were businesses that kind of shuffled around from one place to a nearby place in Central Square.
Nothing stays the same.
That's happened with some other places in Harvard Square as well. So to me, my point I was making was that they should put one word on the table for consideration, which was accommodation, just to make sure that even if changes, good or bad changes happen, that businesses that people want to see stay are accommodated.
Right.
Like I'd be horrified if my neighbor's business, Black Ink, which is right there, and Susan spoke at this hearing last week. If she got forced out,
Oh, what's her name? Is that
Susan Corcoran?
Oh, okay, I saw that.
No relation to the Corcorans.
No, but
Right, but it would be a terrible thing if she sort of got forced out of the square. But one possibility is if at least if rents or whatever became difficult, to make sure that places like Black Ink could always have a place in the square.
And Frank Kramer, who used to own Harvard Books, gave a shout out. He sold it 12 years ago, but he thanked Harvard, which I think we have to mention because Tom Lucy was there.
Tom Lucy was there.
Harvard's I didn't realize they owned the building that Club Pessima's in. They owned quite a few, and they've kept their rents somewhat. I mean, they're a good neighbor.
I've always,
but of course they can't go anywhere. They can't run out of town. So.
And another thing is true about it is Harvard. And I'm saying this in all honesty. Harvard and a lot of major universities, they kind of live and die by the benevolence of their alums. And if Harvard alums were to come back and find that Harvard Square looked like a strip mall and was completely unfamiliar, that would not go so well. So it's actually in Harvard's best financial interest, as well as in their own interest as good neighbors, to actually...
Except not too many must have eaten at the Tasty, because that hasn't come back.
Well, they didn't own it. They didn't own it. I think the bank owned it. I think that was Cambridge Trust.
I see. So it's more of what Harvard. Okay.
And I was there for all the big hullabaloo about the redoing of the Reed Block, which is where the Tasty was located.
The whole Starbucks, CVS now. You're talking about that.
Is there a Starbucks in that space?
Is there? Don't you go to Harvard Square? It's like 2 floors.
That's well, I know they have one around the corner on Church Street.
Remember the Swatch store used to be there?
Yeah, that's Starbucks
now that's all Starbucks.
Jeez, I didn't notice.
Yeah, because you don't go to Starbucks.
I don't really go to Starbucks. I guess I didn't see that. Yeah.
Doesn't have a cell phone. Doesn't have.
No, I know. I'm a total Luddite. But a place like the Tasty may still have been able to operate in there. Maybe not necessarily in the same building, but this takes two to tango, and the owner chose not to try and relocate. So
they mentioned Leo's Diner, which reminds me of the Tasty, and that's gone. Is that gone?
I don't actually know. I know that when I used to teach in the mathematics department there, one of the places I'd go for a sandwich was either Lee's Beehive, which was down Dunster, and then it was I think there was also the sandwich shop on Church Street. Which I think was same.
Maybe.
Same.
I think that's the same
business
place.
owners. Right. And it was important to me to have a place you could just get a sub.
Oh, you were the thing about the sandwich, right? You
Yeah.
did bring that up.
Yeah.
That's why you went the out of town to.
It's that, the Harvard Square of the
Elsie's is
future.
gone, right?
I remember going. Yeah, I know.
There we go.
I remember going to Elsie's.
Yeah.
That was a great thing, But
Well, the
but
Mr.
things
Burger
change.
or Cottage or whatever that's called, he's still
Mr.
there. I get a
Bartley's.
sandwich there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably one of the few, that will never leave. Who owns that
Well,
building?
the problem
Wait,
with
who
Mr.
owns that
Bartley is
building?
nobody goes there anymore. It's too
It's all
crowded.
tourists. But who owns that
Thank you,
building?
Yogi
That's
Berra.
curious. That's not Harvard, right?
I don't remember if it is or isn't.
Because they have been there. They're one of the oldest
They've been here a very, very
businesses.
long time.
All right, let's move on
Anyway.
though to where are we going? All right, so that's
Oh, actually, let me say one last thing
Yeah.
about it. At the
Yeah.
Because I think I wrote it up in a Civic Journal over the weekend. One interesting thing came out of that meeting about
The economic-
Harvard Square,
Yeah.
and specifically about that the building that's
Abbott building?
the Abbott building
Yeah.
that's about to undergo some serious changes. There was one fellow named Ken Taylor got up to the microphone and said, "Well, if there are some changes, here are some more creative things that you might consider." And what and he had this notion. He said, "Well, if they are going to do some radical thing, like going to demolish where the old Corcoran's was,
yeah.
they could consider extending Palmer Street into like an alley on the other
Oh, I
side of the
heard
street,
that, yeah.
which would create an opportunity for entryways to the shops inside."
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
And I
that's
thought to
interesting.
myself,
Yeah.
I said, but it was an interesting kind of twist because
Yeah.
everybody talks about preserving the historic facades.
Right.
But there's a situation where you could actually
Right.
change if you want to call it a historic. I don't
Yeah.
know that Corcoran side is a historic facade by
No.
any measure, but you could certainly change the streetscape, the facades, in such a way as to create another alleyway, which is what really is one of the best things about Harvard Square. There's all these sort of passageways and connections.
Well, if you go into Urban Outfitters, you can't come out the other side. That's the only way
Right.
that you can do it.
So in a way, you can make that official by
official
creating an
tunnel.
alleyway. Yeah. So that you could make Harvard Square even more like Harvard Square if you did
guess
something
so,
like that.
yeah.
So anyway, I'm only mentioning that because I think it's a nice example of how you can make a pretty significant change that might actually make the place feel even
Little
more
more
like
open,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but more like Harvard,
don't
even
think
more
they're
like Harvard
gonna
Square.
do that
I don't
for
think
some
they're going to
reason,
do it
yeah.
because they don't want to give up the ground floor space
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Anyway, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes. There's a December 5th, I believe,
Oh.
historical commission hearing where they're going to consider this petition for landmarking that came from the public. The city council one will
Landmarking
not.
what?
The Abbott building.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's pretty, I didn't even see that on the
Yeah.
calendar. Okay.
So anyway, so it's an ongoing
All right.
matter. I think the bigger issue is just how do you maintain vitality in Harvard Square, maintain flexibility because businesses
Well,
come, businesses
other
go.
than
but-
zoning, there's just so much you can do because these developers are going to come in. Gerald Chan, who, right or wrong, he owns a lot of property. He
Yeah.
gave the largest gift to Harvard ever to
Yeah.
the School of $350 million.
Yeah, so he's got some sway.
So, and he's, yeah. So
Now,
anyway,
Dennis Carlone actually did float at the hearing. I think it was at the hearing.
Yeah, I've got some
the
more.
notion about creating a special permit process to regulate retail uses. Now, he didn't go into
did he
specifics.
refer to another city that's done that? I thought he had
Well,
referred to something.
When he said it, I
Yeah.
wondered, well, okay, what does he really mean by that?
Right.
And I thought to myself, I said, well, when we regulate fast food establishments,
Yeah.
we do that through a permitting process.
Right.
The Central Square Restoration Petition, which is now going through the process of Planning Board, Ordinance Committee, et cetera, eventually
Mm-hmm. Right.
the City Council, has in it a provision, one of the more significant provisions, which is essentially to eliminate the fast food cap and replace it with this regulation of what they call formula businesses.
Right.
And as part of that, it would actually create a vehicle through which you could regulate via special permit some uses. So you could say, well, you can't have more than this number of banks.
So
you-
that would be similar to a zoning thing.
yeah, it would actually be. It is a zoning
I'm
petition.
all for that.
Yeah, so I think there
Is that
are
part
ways.
of the master plan, though?
It is not, but I would hope that ideas like that will eventually make it into the discussion with Envision Cambridge
Right.
about a way
Some
of.
people feel like that's too far off, and that there's changes now that are.
I think it's fair to say that
Yeah.
when this master plan or Envision Cambridge
Mm-hmm.
was, first spawned, the intention was never just to, except with some extreme people,
Yeah.
the intention was never to be more of like a moratorium on all
Right.
changes in the
that
city.
things were going to keep going.
You can,
Yeah.
people can still file zoning petitions and, and seek special permits and do whatever. It doesn't just freeze everything. It was never really the intention. So anyway, we'll move on that. Actually, one thing I'm going to say, just again going back chronologically, since there was another city council meeting on the 12th, which was the rescheduled one from the December 5th.
Oh, that's right, because of the fire. So there's
because
actually
of the fire, they delayed
been a lot
the meeting.
of delayed stuff, yeah.
Right. So they went through that whole agenda, and there were a few additional items as well. I can't comment a whole lot on it because, I made some comments on what was on the agenda, but I left the meeting because, and I'll just mention this kind of quickly. Every year, the Sater family, who owns the Middle East.
Oh, you went to the Cambridge Business Association?
Well,
the Central Square Business.
Actually, I was planning on going to the Central Square Business Association thing on Tuesday. And I didn't go to that because I went to the one in the Middle East on Monday night, which is so much more. It's just
I don't know anything
fun.
about that. So
it happens every year. It's sort of by word of mouth.
The Central Square people.
It's sort of for the denizens of Central Square, and it's kind of like if you kind of get wind of it, you show up.
Well, thanks
they
for
go,
letting
come
me
on.
know, Robert. Jeez.
I didn't. I actually just. I guess I wasn't hanging with people lately, and
it's definitely word
and I
of mouth.
found out about it on Monday night from Patrick Barrett.
I see.
And he said, "Hey, you going to the Middle East later?"
Yeah.
I said, "What? That's tonight?"
Yeah.
So instead of staying at the meeting, I went to the Middle East.
See.
And
okay.
what a great thing! The Sater family are like, they are like the benefactors of Cambridge. They just throw a party for everybody, and it's great. It's one of the highlights of the year. It really is. But I'm glad Patrick said it to me because I would have completely forgotten. I didn't know that it was that night.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful. So instead of
I think I did watch that meeting, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah. Well, I had a better time at the meeting.
I'm sure you did.
I did. And now we should mention here the poem. I thought that would be kind of a nice thing. So we'll bring that up here. So Judy sent me some months ago.
Many months ago.
Were you cleaning out some of your own?
I don't know. It was the days of Xerox copies or whatever. So I must have gotten it from somewhere, maybe an old Chronicle or something. And I thought you would enjoy it.
It looked like it was originally typed.
Maybe.
It might be.
Who knows?
Yeah. But it was a poem, and we'll bring it up here. We'll just bring it up right now.
Yeah.
Let me see. Actually, we gotta do this.
Just slide it.
No, I think we gotta do that here.
I thought you go like that.
Is that how it works?
And then you go like that. Yeah.
See, I'm glad somebody knows what they're doing here.
Okay. So there it is.
So there was this poem, and I don't know. I could read it. It's kind of, why not? It's called "Central Square is a Grandma," and I thought, honestly,
it's a little sexist
it
now
really
that I look at
resonated.
it, but it's okay.
Well, no, it's a grandma.
It's a building, right?
It's a little old. It's a little beyond its time, but we love it, right?
Yeah, this is 1987. We have to remember this is pre a lot of stuff happening.
It is, but some of the sentiments are so similar to what you might say
put
today.
That in there,
yeah. So I put in a picture here of just Teddy's shoes because it seemed like it was sort of old timey.
Yeah.
And it's a little broken down too. The sign's a little busted down as well, right? In fact, I never quite understood what it means by cancellations. Why it's so prominently displayed on the sign. It's pieces of Central Square are sort of almost like a little lost in time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the poem is: Central Square is a grandma, snaggle-toothed and silent, dozing by a drafty window in a faded cotton dress. Her stories need no telling, even the blind can read her features in the roughness of her knuckles or the rattle of her sigh. She danced ballet and scrubbed the floor, raised children and taught them in school, and was a patroness of the arts with big green rhinestone earrings. She's been in clubs and fights and station wagons, behind a desk and in the hospital, and life keeps moving into her like it does with old people. When there's Greek music playing, her feet will stamp and shuffle, and she'll always ask for seconds when the catfish is fried just right. She may mumble Haitian stories or hum a Vietnamese lullaby while she rolls her endless tortillas and sips papaya punch. She's old as we will be. And who wants to be old? I guess we have to scroll down because I can't actually see
Only old people like old people. We can try to make her young, we can fix her hair up pretty, but the hairpins pinch and scratch her. We can buy her a chrome-plated wheelchair and push her out of the way. She'll sleep when she takes her medicine, and she weighs almost nothing. But now her heart must go. There's money to be made. Whoa.
Yeah, it is sort of a harsh end.
If anyone knows anything about Hilda Marshall,
There is a Hilda Marshall who's a
Okay.
friend of my
you
friend Ron
mentioned this.
Newman in Somerville, and it might be the same Hilda Marshall. I'd
gotta
be kind
be,
of curious.
I bet. Yeah.
But I kind of like the way the poem just sort of
Yeah.
captures this sort of multi-layered feel.
Yeah,
Sort of,
multicultural,
it kind of
yeah.
likens Central Square as a person
Yes.
who's a little old, a little fragile, a little spunky.
But she gets into different foods
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was
Yeah.
a wonderful
Yeah, that's
little,
nice.
little treat.
Yeah,
you
Central
know,
Square.
appreciate you
Yeah.
sending that along.
Yes,
It was a great
great.
thing. Actually, by the way, speaking of Central Square,
Yeah.
or I think we did mention, maybe it was the last time we had a show, that the Central Square Restoration Petition,
Yes.
which is also known as the Seder Petition,
Yeah, that's having another hearing, right?
yeah, it actually passed on it got an approval with the planning board on its first pass, which doesn't usually happen.
Oh, shoot.
It had
Yeah.
one meeting in front of the ordinance committee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and I think then it's held in committee, and it will have another committee meeting at some point, but it's not yet scheduled.
Really? I thought I saw, that was on the medical.
Yeah, I hope they'll schedule it soon. I mean, it's
No,
got a while.
I saw something.
Yeah, it may go until April before it actually reaches a point where
Right.
it has to be acted upon. But I don't think this is something they should delay on. I think it's relatively benign petition, and hopefully the ordinance committee won't just
Yeah.
sort of play football with it too much.
Right.
But anyway, just sort of mention that.
Should we quickly mention the participatory
Yeah, let's do that.
budgeting?
So
Yeah.
I think we certainly spoke about the participatory budgeting in some previous
Yeah.
meetings. So I got a notice, I think it was last Wednesday, that they were announcing the winners in the evening. So I went
Right.
there.
Oh, you actually went to the announcement?
Yeah, I actually went there for
Oh,
the
that's-
announcements.
there it is, yeah.
And took a picture. Let's see. I'm never very good. There we go.
Oh,
All
that's your picture?
Yeah, there were
Really?
there were other pictures taken by
Oh.
the city staff, but I was sort of off on the side, so I took a shot that way here too. So there were, we mentioned some of the projects
Mm-hmm.
that came up. I don't know if I can read them all from here, but I think it was, in the end, it was what, 7 projects that got funded?
You voted for 5,
Yeah.
so,
So the,
wait, no, here they are,
Yeah,
right here.
people got
Yeah.
to choose up to 5. Everybody who voted, and there were a lot of people who voted. I forget if it actually says it. on this
Actually,
thing.
there is 7, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the solar power shines. It's
Basically, they couldn't
60,000.
exceed 700,000, so they would fit
Right.
in as many as could actually make it
Right,
under the wire.
okay.
And I think the total was about 706,000.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. So the solar panels, which I kind of knew was going to win. That
Yeah,
was
that's
actually
the
the most.
biggest
That was the
expense, right.
priciest one, but I thought it was going to get the most votes, and it did.
Okay, it
so-
did. So what number, I didn't vote for that one, I
Yeah.
don't think.
So then there was also in addition to the solar panels, there was the.
No, I did vote for that one, right.
Yeah.
Number 6 was the all-in-one mobile performance stage. Oh,
But
no,
that
that
did
did
not-
not
that
win,
did
I'm
not
sorry,
win.
I'm looking at the winners. The winners were,
Yeah, so the
Cambridge Street
crosswalks for
Art
busy
Trail.
roads, which is
Yeah.
basically flashing lights to sort of
I
highlight where
voted
the
for that,
crosswalks
that's
are.
good, yeah.
The more youth center upgrades.
I
got,
voted for that, yeah.
That one.
Number 11.
Kinetic energy tiles.
I did not vote for that.
I didn't vote
I'm
for
not
it
sure
either.
what that's doing.
Yeah, and I'm
but,
not sure where it's to be located.
Yeah, not a lot of money, but
There
still.
was the solar-powered real-time bus tracker
Yeah,
displays.
which I think is the second time that's been,
Yeah, I think it
was
was
from
either
last
this
year or the
or a
one
mild
before,
variant
yeah.
of a proposal from
that did
another
not get
year.
it before, yeah.
All right, and I'm not sure. Did
Solar-
we get them all? The
Hydration stations,
which I also
yeah.
voted for.
I voted for that.
Yeah, so I don't know if we got them all
Yeah.
there, but I think we may just. have
4
gotten
out of my
all
5 got it, so
Four,
that's
out of,
cool.
4 out of
Yeah.
5. I think I got 3 out of 5.
Yeah, all right.
So you bested me on
I
that.
bested you by 1.
Yeah, all right.
So,
So anyway, so that was
was
that was
that.
pretty exciting, and by the way, it's not always possible to implement these winners easily. I'm saying that only because I know last year one of the winners was the public toilet facility for Central Square.
oh, that hasn't happened.
And a year has passed, and it's still not there. If you do go up in front of where the corner of Prospect and Mass Ave, you may see some white markings in the sidewalk where they'd run some tests, just looking to make sure there was appropriate utilities to do connections,
Right.
or at least there would be space to run utilities through
Right.
there.
So has the
and-
money been allocated for it?
The money
Or
is
does
set
the
aside
money-
for
It is set aside,
and
okay.
it's just that the actual implementation for some things like that takes some time.
Where can you find out which ones actually have been implemented?
I actually don't know. I mean,
I guess we could just look
you
at
can
the site.
sort of
Yeah.
walk the city and see
Well,
sometimes.
I think I'll go on Google and find out. I'll go on the city
which ones are
website.
actually built. Yeah, I think some of the little free libraries were built that
Oh,
were
right.
set aside.
Right.
Actually, speaking of little free libraries, I'm going to make a little plug for something. You know, we, as you probably know, we every other Wednesday morning we meet with our little group of Central Square
You meet,
safety.
not me.
No, it's a small group of
Right.
people from the representatives from the police department, public works, some of the Central Square Business Association members, a few members of the public, and we basically it's just an informal group that basically tries to sort of help things out.
In terms of Central Square, okay.
Yeah, so we do walkthroughs, we look for safety problems, potential problems. You know, we also get to hear about drug overdoses and
Yeah.
how many deaths have occurred.
Great.
You know, things that, apparently it happens with enough frequency that it doesn't even always make the news anymore, which is a shame. But anyway, so we were talking, we were planning having we always do a Central Square cleanup every year, where we bring up with brooms. We
Usually
did
in
it.
September, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to do another one, but when we're doing that, I said, well, sometimes when we actually do these cleanups, it seems like there's actually not that much to clean up. Central Square is dingy, but it's not. It's not really as filthy as some people might think it is. When you actually get down there trying to pick up stuff, you say, well, there's actually not that much to pick up.
Why do you think storekeepers are doing a better job?
I think it's just over time, it's just a little better. That's all. I think Public Works does a pretty good job too. Anyway, so I said, well, maybe we should consider doing something a little bit different. So I floated an idea.
Yeah.
My idea was, I said, because, when I take the bus down to work at MIT, down to Kendall Square, I'll walk past, they have these sort of like little free libraries, but they're a little bit different. They have them in Kendall Square with like plexiglass. It's pretty nice, and they're filled with books. And they're just free book exchanges. So they're just like the little free libraries that have shown up in other parts of Cambridge.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe I'll regret suggesting this, but I think we could use some of those in Central Square. And I said, knowing full well that they might become magnets for graffiti and they might become magnets for people postering over them, so they'd have to be maintained or whatever. And I said, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can turn it into a project where we can get people to sort of team up and maybe construct or install several of these around Central Square. Well, the ones down Kendall Square, apparently we found out that they were sort of assembled, almost like you put together Legos.
How do they stay where they are?
Well, somebody had to put in first a stand to secure them to it. But the thing is, once you did that, then you could just assemble it and build them up.
What's the stand secured to?
Just to the earth. If something is anchored into the earth, or onto a
requires
sidewalk.
Maybe DPW and not a person.
It would.
Yeah, okay.
But fortunately, we had the commissioner and deputy commissioner of public works.
They're talking about sandwich boards. You'd have
So they would help out in that.
Okay.
Many of these ones are actually put on private property, but so this might actually have to be on public property.
Right.
So I floated the idea. So I said, well, maybe people find this interesting, and they did actually. So people from community development department were intrigued. We already got at least one person from the Central Square business community has volunteered to fund one or more of them. And Jason Weeks from the Arts Council said, hey, that's a pretty good idea. We should do something like that. So we're going to try and put a Central Square spin on it. Maybe a little artsy, a little bit more distinctive for Central Square. And we'll see how it goes. But it was kind of nice to sort of floating an idea out there.
It would be nice if it was near benches. So people can sit and read.
Yeah.
Maybe like near University Park or something.
And there's one fellow who actually, because I helped set up the book exchange that we had down in Public Works Yard some years ago. I brought the recycling director over out to Wellesley College and showed her how they had a nice book exchange that everybody loved out at Wellesley. Not at Wellesley College, in Wellesley
Their
Town.
drop-off, right.
Yeah. And then she said, okay, let's do it. And they built
Yeah.
a nice thing that looked very much like the one at Wellesley.
Yeah.
And that's been operating down at Public Works Yard ever since.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that maintain it.
Yeah, but there's
volunteers.
But there is one fellow. He is the guy who sells the books in front of the library in Central Square, who goes out there and
right.
picks the best books out and then resells them.
Is that okay?
And it should not be okay.
No, I didn't realize that's
know,
where they came from.
Yeah, well, no, he gets them from other sources as well.
Oh.
But the thing is that when people actually donate a book, I don't think their intention is to have somebody.
Does he have a permit to sell? How does he do that?
He probably does it because nobody complains.
Oh.
Yeah. And no, I don't complain. I like it when
I've
people
seen it
do
every
things
year,
like that. But
yeah.
it bothers
all the
me
time I see.
if I put some good books
Yeah.
out there and then one person picks out the good books and leaves the old
But
almanacs.
that could be happening anyway. Other people go there and
Yeah,
take stuff, and they probably
yeah.
so maybe they need the money.
I mean,
you
but
know?
if
it gets
to a degree,
it's
you put up with
circulated.
it. You
Okay.
put up with it to a degree, right?
Right.
But I wouldn't want to see a nice idea where people are really trying to exchange things, and then somebody just comes
Yeah.
by and cleans it out of anything that's really worthwhile.
Well, then that should be up to whoever's monitoring it. But
Yeah.
there's just so much they can do.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could find some way to
So we're
make it
getting
happen.
towards the end. I just wanted to
Well, you
put
mentioned
a
something about
shout out to the Recycling Advisory Committee, and also the Recycling Department is going to be doing a zero waste master plan to be presented to the City Council, and then we'll have some public hearings about it. They've hired a consultant because they are really looking at the main thing is how to expand curbside compost,
Right.
which they have said would happen in September, but I'm not sure yet. So they have hired HDR consultants, who I think worked with Randy a little bit.
Randy Mail, former recycling director.
And they are going to be getting, we did a waste audit last week, several of us, other people, to just help give them data, what's in the waste stream. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of food waste in the curbside area,
Right.
Monday's trash route, because it is voluntary.
Yeah.
Anyway, just be aware that we'll report more on it, because that's going to be coming up this beginning of the year.
One thing that's certainly happening is that there is eventually, it's really a convergence of all the solid waste handling for the city, recycling, regular rubbish,
and they need a whole
organics.
plan. Right.
So it
It's
has to
also,
be a-
we're going to be entertaining, do we want to do pay as you throw, which has always been a political football, but it's got to be put out there because
Right.
that's how you increase this.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
it'll be
we'll see where it
interesting.
goes.
Yeah. We'll keep you posted.
So more. So in all likelihood, we'll be back next week
Yes.
on Cambridge
Oh.
Inside Out.
Will we? Okay. All right. Bye.